Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of On the Throttle with Jackie Van Ham and my buddy Josh, bringing you all of the new exciting news and things and stuff going on out here in motorcycles and power sports. Welcome back if you're a regular watcher of the show. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in every single week. We've been doing this for 56 weeks now. This is episode number 56, bringing you all the exciting news and breaking news going on out here in motorcycle land. If you are new to the show, hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us. You can always watch all of our previous episodes. They live forever and ever out here on the internet, for good, bad. They live forever out here, right, Josh? Over on our YouTube channel and our Motorcycle Powersports News Facebook page. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. On today's show, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Honda motorcycles and Ducati is its muscles. And what do you got going on for today's show, Josh?
So there's actually three things that I want to mention. Is the first one is I think the 56 episodes is why your Running Man was so good there at the beginning of this. The things that I'm going to talk about that are actually motorcycle relevant, though, is when you think KTM, you think off-road performance. They've got something else up their sleeve that actually just came out. And then we are going to talk about a bunch of racers that typically are on the other side of either one of the ponds, but they're coming this way next year. And I'm excited to get into that.
I'm super excited too. We're going to have that story and more after this word from our sponsor.
There are still billions of dollars available for businesses through the Employee Retention Credit Federal Tax Credit Program. Stenson Tamaddon has helped companies with less than 500 employees retrieve over $3.4 billion in tax credits through employee retention credits. Call Stenson Tamaddon today at 866-934-8461 today to start your application. That's 866-934-8461 to apply. Call now.
And huge thanks to Josh for doing that Stenson Tamaddon spot for us. I love that Jacqui impression that you did. It was absolutely brilliant. Good job.
Been working on
it. So for today's show, let's go ahead and jump on in it. This story near and dear to my heart, and my headline for it is going to be Honda is out to prove that size doesn't matter. Right, Josh? Size doesn't matter for the folks over at Honda. They are releasing, one of the folks on the internet dug up a little bit of some details and some schematics that were filed from Honda Motorcycle that they are potentially developing a new scooter. This interests me a whole lot. I love small displacement machines. I think they are an absolute hoot. I think they're a really good time. I love me a pit bike. I love me a small displacement machine. So when this hit the internet this past week, I knew I needed to dig in a little bit deeper. So this is over the last few years, the use of the electric rental scooter has seen a huge rise, right? All these little bird scooters and things floating around. And it is a multi-billion-dollar market for new urban mobility solutions. So it looks like Honda has taken note of this potential and might be tempted to enter the market with its own take on this idea. So most of these rental scooters are the stand-up design that you and I are both familiar with, right? You stand up on them, you park them in obnoxious places and leave them all over the place. This is a little bit different. Notice it has a seat. Next slide is going to show you it also has some folding handlebars, which I thought was really interesting. Very reminiscent of some earlier foldable Honda scooters, especially from like the 1980s. These were floating around a little bit. And then more importantly, what this really reminded me of, and especially Honda, next slide, please, is one of my most favorite things, and this is the Moto Compo from Honda. That's right, gang. In the Wayback Machine, Honda already did make a foldable scooter. Look at this rad little machine, and the car that it's parked next to in this slide is what it came with. That's right, gang. In the Wayback Machine, Honda released a car called the Honda City, and when you purchased it, you were also entitled to, as part of that purchase, this folding scooter that went in the trunk. Next slide, please. So again, this is the Honda City, so they're familiar with this space. This is not new turf for them. I love this Moto Compo. I would absolutely love to add one to my collection. By the way, Josh and I were discussing pre-show that he saw a couple for sale up in Ohio. I'm gonna have to go look at those immediately. But anywho, So I thought that this was really interesting. And I have to admit, when I first read this article thing, this kind of foldable micro scooter, I immediately was hoping it was a relaunch of this motor compo. It is not exactly. It is a folder. Again, these are just some schematics that were released. I do not have any other additional for it. Patents. The bike has an extremely short wheelbase with the rider sitting almost above the rear wheel. The seat and can be slid forward. It also is going to have the battery underneath there as well. As I mentioned, it has the folding handlebars. So really interesting. And I think I've got another slide. If you want to throw that next slide up, that this is what I thought was really, really interesting. And this is going to be a chance for you to go ahead and fold these up and transport these. There we go. So this is what I thought was really interesting is, I know it's really hard to tell what's going on this slide. This is basically a bird's eye view looking down, because these foldable micro scooters from Honda can be locked into one another and transported together as a group. So the rider would be on the lead motorcycle. The three behind them are ones that they're basically, in essence, towing because they're out of juice. So this is where I think, this is this conversation again about these bird scooters and about these, small scooters that you can rent, which is a huge business. The fact is, if you live in a city center, you've seen these parked dead birds all over the place, right? And it's kind of a thing to have a company come and pick them up, recharge them, make sure they're running correctly, yada, yada, yada. Honda went one step further and made them be lockable so they could lock into one another and be moved as a group, a flock, as it were, a flock of seagulls. So anyway, I think this is really interesting. I think it's really fun technology. It's fun design. I'm absolutely here for it. What do you think about that, Josh?
To me, it's the thing that Honda has always done so well is scalability and adapting. So Honda's always taken, whether it be cars, motorcycles, lawnmowers, whatever it is, they take one piece and adapt it for 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 different models. And this goes right along with it. The batteries, the stuff like that, all this is going to be interchangeable with other scooters. When you look at stuff like the Grom, the Navi, there is part sharing galore going on there. So if you can add 30 or 40 parts to the parts catalog and come out with a completely different thing that people are going to love, yeah, that's Honda. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. And the opportunity to potentially have these be part of, city center landscape and be able to rent a Honda that you sit down on that has more reliability, that is probably more comfortable than the stand-up upright scooters. Yep. I think this is a total win, and I am here for it. So just from Honda to show you, size doesn't matter. Now, what do you got going on for your first story, Josh?
So for me, I'm looking at, I was kind of going through, we've all got our dream bikes, right? And I mean, there's a number that I go way back that I've had, things. This one was one that you're not going to ride to the office, ever. KTM just came out with the second generation of their RC8C. Now, this is one of their ready-to-race bikes. This is a track-only bike. Obviously, as you can see, there seems to be a lack of any lighting whatsoever on this guy. And that is part of how they achieve this 142 kilogram weight. Now, for those of you that don't do the conversions in your head, I have saved you. That is 313 pounds, which is actually 4 pounds less than my DRZ. This to me is a big win. And I mean, it's for those track enthusiasts everywhere. They're looking for that ultimate track weapon. This is definitely it. So it's based off of the LC 8C engine. It's essentially the engine pulled out of the 890. This is tuned to 135 horsepower. Now, they've obviously done a lot of work on the internals in order to get it there, and they've refined it for this also. That 135 horsepower hits right around 11,000 RPM, which is screaming when you consider that this is an inline twin. The chassis will be built by Kramer. And when I say Kramer, I am not referring to the Seinfeld character. I am referring to the chassis company that builds chassis for MotoGP bikes. They will have the capacity to build up to 30 chassis a day, but don't get too excited about that number quite yet. And I'll get into that here in a second. So this uses WP Apex Pro suspension, Brembo brakes. I mean, this is all high-end stuff. The forged Dimag wheels, and this also has an AIM dashboard that's GPS enabled, so that way you've got your lap timer built into your dash. No, it's not in case you get lost out there, Jacqui. On top of this, it has the RC16 inspired livery, the Akrapovic exhaust on this. Now, what's interesting about this is there's a full accessory kit that you can get with this. You can get a suit, you can get an extra set of wheels, you can even buy the KTM race carpet for your pit when you get this bike. The only problem is, and that's what I'm going to get down to with this, only 200 of these units were made. I was watching this go. I mean, they had a clicker on their website, and you could literally watch it go from 200 units available in a number of hours go to 0 units available. $39,599 was the price on this. Now, 30 of the people that bought this motorcycle have the opportunity to go to Valencia for a special day to take delivery of their motorcycle with 29 of what will be their best friends and to test this thing out first day, number one, out on the track. To me, it's one of these things that KTM does that makes people feel special. It is one of these European things that they like to do to say, hey, look, we're going to make something rare. I love it. I want to ride on it, but I don't think anyone's dumb enough to give me that bike. What are your thoughts, Jacqui? Would you put this next to the Moto Campo?
I would absolutely put a Moto Campo up against this. No, I'm totally joking, obviously. No, I think it's a really beautiful bike. I love these, very one-off specialty, race-specific type machines. They are special, they are boutique, and I love the fact that they're doing that launch or giving the opportunity for 30 people to come to Valencia and take over their bike as well as have a track day experience with it at Valencia, which is absolutely beautiful. So I think that is a really neat, cool thing. It is very, very boutique. It is very premium, and I expect nothing less from basically a $40,000 track only bike. The person who's buying that, who is going to go take it to track days and things and possibly wad this up, can absolutely afford to fly themselves over to Valencia and also go have that track day experience. So they're not playing around down at this neck of the woods. They're definitely aiming for this neck of the woods, and they clearly hit it because that bike sold out in a matter of hours.
Yes, definitely. And
it's really neat.
The cool thing about it too is they've got it right in that sweet spot. It's 135 crank horsepower, so it's rideable. You don't have to be an alien to get on this thing, but it's still at 317 pounds. Anyone can be fast on it, which is just awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was a little surprised by the horsepower number, to be honest. I thought that was a little low. But you're right. When you put it into the perspective of this bike weighs just over 300 pounds, that ratio is bananas. So it's got plenty of juice to move 300 pounds around any track for a heck of a good time. So that is all very good news and very cool news from the folks over at KTM. While talking about a little bit of high horsepower, the folks at Ducati are indeed flexing their muscles over there because they just released this past week their new version of the Diavel. The Diavel is their, I'm going to call it a muscle cruiser for lack of a better word. When this bike was launched, this definitely was a real head scratcher because Ducati making this bike, fat rear tire in this space, it is very not Ducati, but they've continued with it. It does seem to sell through. It is a little bit of a cult bike for sure. And they have done a major, major switch up on this bike this past year. And that is the fact that this launch that just happened, and it was a digital launch as most companies are moving towards. This was a digital launch. They have changed out the engine platform for the Diavel entirely. So they just live streamed. They just had this launch, of course. It is the much anticipated 2023 Ducati Diavel V4. That's right. You heard me correctly. It's a V4 now. It's powered by an 1158cc V4 Gran Turismo engine, which is derived from the Desmosedici Stradale V4 that Ducatisti already know and love from the Panigale V4. One of Ducati's key stats for this machine includes a 0 to 100 km per hour, or on this side of the upon 62-mile-per-hour time of less than 3 seconds. So definitely putting the muscle in the phrase muscle cruiser. They can also utilize an extended deactivation system for 2 cylinders as needed to reduce fuel consumption and emissions when running at low speeds or at stops. That also helps keep the engine a little bit cooler, I believe. I know several companies have started using this deactivation of the rear cylinder technology, including, I believe, the folks over Indian Motorcycle, to keep that engine a little bit cooler as well while you are at stops or stuck in city traffic and don't need all that power. The suspension consists of a 50mm fully adjustable front fork setup, as well as a fully adjustable rear monoshock. It's got Brembo brakes on it, of course. What is the rest? The dry weight of this bike is 492 pounds, which might sound kind of like a lot, 500-pound muscle cruiser, but actually that's super light and is 29 pounds lighter than the previous generations of this bike. The slides, Ashley, I've got a couple different versions and some different paint schemes. We can all take a gander at it, including that exhaust. Josh and I were talking before the show about this bike a little bit. I know you were a big fan of this 4x4 on one side pipe. I thought it was a really interesting choice.
For sure.
Available obviously in Ducati red and black for sure. The 2023 Diavel V4 is going to be coming with a 5-inch TFT dash, which is now pretty commonplace for everybody, complete with multimedia and Bluetooth connectivity. Turn-by-turn nav is available for extra cash. You get 4 different riding modes: sport, touring, urban, and wet included, which can be adjusted through, of course. Other included features are cruise control, launch control, and a quick shifter up and down. There'll be a handful of accessories available for this bike, and the pricing starts at $26,695, and these bikes will be rolling out into dealerships this spring. That is the all-new 2023 Ducati Diavel V4 for the very first time. Josh, what do you got to say about this bike? What do you think about this Diavel?
It's so weird because every time I look at it, I just get these other weird opinions and weird feelings about it. Because it's got Ducati styling to it, so you're like, yeah, it is it, but it's like it's the guy that he walked into the dealership, didn't know if he wanted a cruiser or a sport bike, so he bought both in one bike. The thing is, too, it kind of reminds me, when you look at that power also, it kind of gives me that Yamaha VMAX vibe in terms of just the amount of power it creates. And with that, though, the wet mode that you talked about that it has, I'm wondering if that's talking about your underwear when you take this thing and just rip it mid-turn and suddenly you've soiled yourself. So is that what you flip the mode to? I don't know. So we'll have to find out on that.
Who can never be sure, Josh, because they did choose to call it wet versus rain mode, which is why I paused and kind of laughed about it. But God bless. Yeah. But I do think this bike and the Diavel in general, since its launch, has always reminded me of the super yoked out gym rat guy who goes to the gym and always skips leg day. That's what this bike reminds me of 110%.
I can see that.
So
I can see that. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But anyway, brand new bike from them, and again, they're putting the V4 engine in it, so that's quite a big deal for the folks over at Ducati. What's going on for your second story today, Josh?
So last thing I've got, it was kind of exciting news because, I don't like to get in airplanes, so this gives me a chance if I would actually like to go see some of the FIM World Rally Raid. So it's not necessarily coming to the U.S., it is, however, coming to North America. And once again, if you're not familiar with it, if you like watching people use motorcycles to move large quantities of earth at one time, this is how you do this, as per this example here. So typically these rounds, it's mainly a desert type of race. These are typically held Europe, Africa, things of that nature. But this year, they're actually bringing 2 rounds to the Americas. So one is the Mexican round that is going to be in the Sonoran Desert in Mexico in April. The Sonoran event has been popular, so it hasn't been an FIM World Rally Raid event, but it has been an event that's been popular for the last number of years. I am glad that this year it has finally been to the FIM Club, so that way we get all the big names, the big sponsors, and just the big fun that entails. That, as I mentioned, is going to be in April. The Argentinian Desafio Ruta, I didn't pay attention in Spanish class, you can tell. That is going to be in the end of August, and that is going to be down, obviously, in Argentina. Once again, both of these areas are known for their rugged desert terrain. Very wide open, though, and a lot of chances for some great racing if you like this type of racing. To me, I am glad to see that they're going to be bringing this over this side of either whichever way they're going to go, over whichever pond they're going to travel. But I'm glad to see that they're bringing it here. To me, that shows that there's growth in the off-road, there's growth in this type of sport, and there's growth in the interest of that, enough for them to bring it here. And hopefully it continues that growth. Obviously, you guys know I love these style of bikes. I'd take the helicopter too, but I'm really excited to see this come over here. I'm definitely going to be tuning in for these. I do usually watch the recaps, but these ones I'm probably going to tune in for. I mean, what do you think, Jacqui? Would you sit in the helicopter?
Oh gosh, yes, in a second. So yeah, I know that I get I know you like to pick on me that I'm like the V twin or a custom bike dork or whatever. I'm all motorcycles dork, and I am a secret nerd, not so secret anymore, for desert type racing. I
Yeah.
love this stuff. I am a junkie for it. I love to watch it. I love to watch the footage of it. I love to watch movies about it. I cannot stress this enough. So I'm really pumped about this. But what I'm really pumped about is that, it isn't really new or different for desert racing to be happening in Mexico. I mean, the Baja 1000, hello.
Right.
But NORRA, NORRA, has been running in Mexico for years now, huge races down there. So what this excites me is that not that the race is going to be any different really. I mean, it's the same kind of neck of the woods, but way more coverage of it. That's what
World
excites me about
stage.
this, is that there's more opportunity to follow along and watch it. So I'm really, really excited about that. I mean, I would love to go down. It's always been kind of a bucket list for me to be able to go to some of the stages for some of these races and events and go and
Yeah.
spectate. So I'm like the Dakar or whatever. I'm a huge nut for it, so I'm really excited. Oh, you got a slide on the screen right now. Oh yeah, it's showing the different some of the different calendars.
Yep. No, that's it shows where the Sonoran and the Desafio. Yeah, I'm gonna butcher that. So
Nice.
where Mexico and Argentina are, wow, I can't even talk today. It shows those two rounds and the other three of the other rounds that are kind of around them. To me,
Yeah.
it's like you said too. It's bringing it that world stage here. This is not new, but it is that attention that I am loving to see. And I mean the growth in this sport. The other thing is it's going to open up other opportunities for so many things. And that's what I'm really
Yeah.
excited about.
It does have the potential to take it to the next level, and that is what is exciting to me.
Yes.
So, really good stories for today, Josh, as
You
always, here on
also.
episode 56. Every single week, we're all the coolest stuff going on. Speaking
For
of cool
sure.
stuff going on, I've mentioned that the past handful of shows, Ashley was laughing at me about it, but I am headed this week to SEMA out in Las Vegas. If any of you out there watching are headed to SEMA, make sure you come by and come say hey. I'll be in the Central Hall with the ladies from the Real Deal Revolution, which is also partnered with the Jesse Combs Foundation.
Nice.
It is a hands-on skill set learning workshop opportunity. I will be there with those ladies and wandering around through the show and enjoying it and taking pictures and posting them
Nice.
here on MPN. So make sure you follow all of our social, including Instagram, because I'll be sliding into the stories all week long while I am at SEMA. And then next week, I am going to be at the world's largest motorcycle trade show, and that is EICMA over in Milan. I will be
I'm
over in
jealous.
Italy for the week. I am really excited about it. I can't lie,
Yeah.
Josh. The FOMO got me real hard. I was trying to decide if I was going to go or not, and finally I was like, I have to go. I love
Yep.
launches. I love bikes. I love trade shows. So I will also be bringing you updates and photos and videos and things and stuff from EICMA next week as well. So we've got a real action-packed calendar going on over here on
Awesome.
all of our Motorcycle and Power News channels. So make sure you hit notifications on, click like, follow, do all the things, touch all of the buttons. You are not going to want to miss it. And I'll see you next week.